I stood in the middle of our cozy living room, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. In my hand was a letter, the edges crumpled from my grip. The sender was anonymous, but the message was clear. Every word felt like a dagger to my heart, detailing the affair between my wife, Lisa, and my best friend, Jason. We had been married for 20 years and built a life together that I believed was unbreakable. But as I read through the lines, I realized that my life was a carefully constructed lie. It all started to make sense. Her late nights at work, the secretive phone calls, and the sudden business trips that never seemed to end. My suspicions had always been there, lurking in the back of my mind. But I had pushed them aside, trusting in the love we had built over 2 decades. The letter detailed how Lisa and Jason had been seeing each other for years, meeting in secret, sharing moments that were supposed to be ours. I felt the bile rise in my throat as I remembered how she would come home from these business trips, her smile radiant, her eyes sparkling. I thought she was happy because of our life together. But now I knew the truth. She was in love with another man. I couldn't stay in the house any longer. The walls seemed to close in on me. Each picture frames a mocking testament to our so-called happy family. I needed answers, and I knew exactly where to find them. I drove to the local cafe where Lisa often met her friends. It was a quaint little place, the kind where everyone knew everyone else. As I parked across the street, I saw them through the large front window. Lisa and Jason were seated in a corner booth, oblivious to the world around them. They were holding hands, leaning in close, their heads bent together in intimate conversation. When Lisa laughed, it was a sound I had not heard in years, light, carefree, and full of love. But it wasn't love for me. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched them. Every touch, every look was a betrayal. I felt like an outsider peering into a life that was no longer mine. I wanted to burst in there, to confront them both, to demand answers. But instead, I took out my phone and snapped a few pictures. I needed proof, tangible evidence of their deceit. The drive home was a blur. My mind was racing with thoughts of revenge, betrayal, and heartbreak. By the time I walked through the front door, I had already decided that I needed to confront Jason first. If there was anyone who owed me the truth, it was him. Jason lived a few blocks away, in a sleek modern house that stood in stark contrast to our more traditional home. I pounded on his door, my fist connecting with the wood with a force that made the door shake. When he opened it, his face paled. He knew why I was there. "Mike, I can explain," he stammered, his eyes wide with fear. "Explain? Explain how you betrayed me, how you slept with my wife for years," I shouted, my voice echoing through the quiet neighborhood. "Explain how you destroyed my life, my marriage." He tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was too overwhelming. Eventually, he broke down, confessing everything. They had fallen in love, he said, and they couldn't help themselves. It was as if he expected me to understand, to forgive them. But all I felt was rage and a deep, consuming sorrow. I left Jason's house feeling hollow. The man I had trusted more than anyone had stabbed me in the back. But there was still one more person who needed to answer for this betrayal: Lisa. When I returned home, she was waiting for me, her face a mask of worry. "Mike, what's going on? Why did you storm out like that?" she asked, her voice trembling. I held up the letter, letting it speak for me. As she read it, her face crumbled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said, my voice cold and detached. "You destroyed everything we had." She broke down, confessing to everything. They had been seeing each other for 7 years, sneaking around behind my back. And the final blow came when she revealed that our children, Kevin and Jenny, were not mine. Jason was their father. At that moment, my world shattered. The woman I loved, the family I cherished, it was all a lie. But instead of breaking down, I felt a cold, hard resolve settle over me. They had taken everything from me, and I would make sure they paid for it. The revelation of Lisa's infidelity and the true paternity of our children left me reeling, but it also ignited a fire within me. I couldn't let them get away with this. I needed to confront Lisa properly and make her understand the magnitude of her betrayal. She was still sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. "Lisa," I began, my voice low but firm. She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. Why? Why did you do this to us? To me? She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Mike, I never meant for it to go this far. It started as a mistake, something that just happened. But then I fell in love with him. I didn't know how to stop. Her words were like knives, cutting deeper with each syllable. You didn't know how to stop? I echoed. You had 7 years to stop. 7 years to tell me the truth. And instead, you let me believe in a lie. You let me think that Kevin and Jenny were mine. How could you do that? She started crying again, but I felt no sympathy. My heart had turned to stone. I thought I was protecting you, she said between sobs. I thought it would be better if you didn't know. Better for whom? I snapped. Certainly not for me. And what about the kids? What happens to them now? Do they even know? She shook her head. No, they don't know. I couldn't bring myself to tell them. I thought we could just go on pretending. Pretending? I repeated, my anger rising. You've ruined everything, Lisa. Everything. And now you expect me to just… what? Forgive you? Move on? I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what I expected. I just couldn't keep lying to you. The weight of her words hung in the air. I needed to get out, to clear my head. I can't do this right now, I said, turning away from her. I need some air. I walked out of the house, slamming the door behind me. The night was cold, but the fresh air was a relief. I paced up and down the street, my mind racing. I knew I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let Lisa and Jason walk away from this unscathed. I needed a plan, something that would make them feel the same pain I was feeling. I took out my phone and scrolled through the pictures I had taken of them at the cafe. These would be my proof, my ammunition. The first step was to gather more evidence. I needed to build an airtight case against them. Over the next few days, I became a detective in my own life, following Lisa, checking her phone, and even going through her emails. Each discovery was like another nail in the coffin of our marriage. There were love letters, hotel receipts, and countless text messages. It was all there, laid out in black and white. One evening, while Lisa was out, I decided to confront Jason once more. I needed to look him in the eye and see the man who had stolen my life. I drove to his house and rang the doorbell. This time, he didn't look surprised to see me. Mike, what are you doing here? He asked, his voice wary. I think you know, I replied, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. We need to talk. He led me to the living room, where we sat across from each other. Look, Mike, he began. I know this is hard, but you have to understand. Understand? I cut him off. Understand what, Jason? That you betrayed me? That you slept with my wife? That you fathered my children? What exactly am I supposed to understand? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I never wanted this to happen. Lisa and we just couldn't help it. We tried to stop, but… Save it, I snapped. I don't want your excuses. I want to know what you're going to do about it. He looked taken aback. What do you mean? You're going to come clean, I said. To everyone. Lisa, the kids, our friends. Everyone deserves to know what you two have done. He looked panicked. Mike, you can't be serious. This will ruin us. Like you ruined me? I shot back. This is the least you can do. He sat there, silent, his face a mask of guilt and fear. Fine, he finally said. We'll tell everyone. But please, don't take it out on the kids. They don't deserve this. The kids? I laughed bitterly. The kids who aren't even mine? We'll see about that. I left his house feeling a strange sense of satisfaction. The pieces were falling into place. This was just the beginning. Lisa and Jason had no idea what was coming. Returning home, I found Lisa waiting for me in the living room, her face still pale and drawn from our earlier confrontation. The tension in the air was palpable, but I had no time for more tears or apologies. I was determined to proceed with my plan. Lisa, we need to talk, I said, my voice devoid of any warmth. We need to tell the kids the truth. Her eyes widened in shock. Mike, please, they're just children. This will destroy them. Destroy them? You mean like how you and Jason destroyed our family? I countered. They deserve to know. We can't keep lying to them. She seemed to shrink into herself, but she nodded reluctantly. Fine, we'll tell them. But please, let's try to do it gently. That evening, we sat Kevin and Jenny down in the living room. They were playing with their phones, oblivious to the storm brewing around them. Lisa and I exchanged a glance, and I could see the fear in her eyes. She had every right to be afraid. "Kids, we need to talk," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "There's something important we need to tell you." Kevin looked up, sensing the seriousness in my tone. "What's going on, Dad?" I took a deep breath. "There's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to come out with it. Your mom and we're getting a divorce." Jenny's eyes filled with tears immediately. "What? Why?" Lisa reached out to hold her hand, but I cut her off. "It's because your mom has been seeing someone else for a long time. And there's more. Kevin, Jenny, the man she's been seeing is Jason, and he's your biological father." The room fell into a stunned silence. Kevin's face turned red with anger, while Jenny looked like she was about to collapse. "What are you talking about?" Kevin finally managed to say. "Jason? Our father?" "Yes," Lisa whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." Kevin stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. "You lied to us! You both lied to us our whole lives!" Jenny buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was quickly overshadowed by my resolve. They needed to know the truth, no matter how painful. "I know this is hard to understand," I said softly, "but you needed to know the truth. We'll get through this, together." Kevin stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Jenny remained on the couch, her body shaking with sobs. Lisa looked at me, her face a mask of despair. "What have we done?" she whispered. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. The truth was out, and now we had to deal with the consequences. The next few days were a blur of tears, shouting matches, and endless questions. Kevin refused to speak to either of us, while Jenny remained in her room, barely eating or sleeping. It was as if our family had been shattered into a million pieces, and there was no way to put it back together. But I wasn't done yet. The next step was to ensure that everyone else knew the truth. I began by gathering all the evidence I had collected, the photos, the letters, the emails. I compiled everything into a comprehensive file and started sending it out to our friends and family. I watched as the news spread like wildfire. The phone calls and messages started pouring in, each one filled with shock, anger, and disbelief. Our friends couldn't believe what Lisa and Jason had done. They felt as betrayed as I did, and they made sure to let them know. One evening, I received a call from Jason. His voice was desperate. "Mike, please, can we talk?" "There's nothing left to talk about," I replied coldly. "You made your bed, now lie in it." "You're ruining our lives," he shouted. "Just like you ruined mine," I retorted. "This is just the beginning, Jason. You haven't even begun to pay for what you've done." I hung up, feeling a grim satisfaction. Lisa and Jason had destroyed my life, but now they were the ones facing the consequences. It was a small victory, but it was enough to keep me going. As the days turned into weeks, I watched as Lisa and Jason's lives unraveled. Jason lost his job, his reputation in tatters. Lisa became a pariah among our friends, isolated and alone. The kids were struggling, but they were beginning to understand that the fault lay not with them, but with their mother and her lover. It was a long, painful process, but I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I knew that we would never be the same, but we would survive. And as I looked at the shattered remains of our life, I knew one thing for certain. Revenge was a dish best served cold. The revelation to Kevin and Jenny had been devastating, but it was a necessary step in dismantling the facade that Lisa and Jason had built. Now it was time to solidify my case and ensure that they faced the full consequences of their actions. I spent my days meticulously gathering every piece of evidence I could find. It was like piecing together a jigsaw puzzle, each fragment adding to the complete picture of betrayal and deceit. I started with Lisa's phone, scrolling through her messages and call logs. There were countless texts between her and Jason, some mundane, others filled with declarations of love that made my stomach churn. I took screenshots of everything, creating a digital archive of their affair. Then I moved on to her emails. I found more there, plans for secret rendezvous, shared photographs, and even receipts for hotels where they had spent weekends together. Each discovery was like a fresh wound, but I pressed on, driven by a determination to expose the truth. Next, I turned to our home computer. Lisa had been careless, leaving traces of her infidelity everywhere. There were folders filled with photos of her and Jason, smiling and happy, their faces alight with a love that should have been mine. I copied everything onto a flash drive, ensuring I had multiple backups. This was my ammunition, and I needed to be prepared for any eventuality. One day, while Lisa was out, I decided to visit the cafe where they often met. The owner, an older woman named Margaret, knew me well. I had spent many afternoons there, unaware of the secret meetings that were taking place right under my nose. "Hi, Mike," she greeted me warmly. "What brings you here today?" I forced a smile. "Margaret, I need to ask you something. It's about Lisa and Jason. They used to come here often, right?" She looked surprised. "Yes, they did. Why do you ask?" "I'm trying to understand something," I said carefully. "Did you ever notice anything unusual about them? Anything that might suggest they were more than just friends?" Margaret hesitated, glancing around the empty cafe. "Well, I did think it was odd how close they seemed. They were always whispering and laughing like they had their little world. I just assumed they were good friends." "Did they ever meet anyone else here, or talk about any plans?" I pressed. She thought for a moment. "Sometimes they mentioned going on trips together. I didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back it was strange, especially since I knew you and Lisa were married." I nodded, my suspicions confirmed. "Thanks, Margaret. That helps a lot." As I left the cafe, I felt a mix of anger and resolve. Their secret meetings, their whispered conversations, they had thought they were so clever, so untouchable. But now, I had the proof I needed. Back at home, I compiled all the evidence into a comprehensive file. It was a damning collection. Photos, texts, emails, witness statements. I even managed to retrieve deleted messages from Lisa's phone using a software program I had bought online. Every detail, every lie, was laid bare. The final piece of the puzzle was the financial records. I went through our bank statements, highlighting transactions that didn't make sense. There were numerous charges for hotels, dinners, and gifts that I had never received. It was clear that Lisa had been using our money to fund her affair with Jason. With everything collected, I contacted my lawyer, Tom. He was a tough, no-nonsense attorney who had seen it all. When I showed him the evidence, he whistled softly. "Mike, this is solid. They don't stand a chance." "Good," I replied. "I want to make sure they pay for what they've done." Tom nodded. "We'll file for divorce on grounds of adultery. With this evidence, you'll get full custody of the kids in the house. We'll also go after Jason for alienation of affection. It's an old law, but it still applies in cases like this." "Do whatever it takes," I said firmly. "I want to make sure they regret ever betraying me." As I left Tom's office, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. The wheels were in motion, and there was no turning back. Lisa and Jason had thought they could destroy my life without consequences. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. In the days that followed, I continued to gather every shred of evidence, leaving no stone unturned. Each discovery only strengthened my resolve. Lisa had chosen her path, and now she would face the repercussions. It was time to turn the tables and show them both that I was not a man to be crossed. The day had come to face Lisa in court. The weeks leading up to it had been a whirlwind of preparation and emotional turmoil, but I felt ready. My lawyer, Tom, had meticulously crafted our case, and I was confident in the mountain of evidence we had gathered. The courtroom was cold and sterile, a stark contrast to the emotions swirling within me. Lisa sat on the opposite side, her face pale and drawn. Jason was conspicuously absent, likely too cowardly to face the consequences of his actions. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. My heart pounded as Tom presented our case, laying out the evidence with precision. He started with the photographs and messages, each one a dagger that drove home the depth of Lisa's betrayal. "Your Honor," Tom said, addressing the judge, "we have here incontrovertible proof of Mrs. Thompson's long-term affair with Mr. Jason Parker. This affair has not only violated the sanctity of their marriage, but has also led to the deception of Mr. Thompson, who believed he was the biological father of their children." Lisa's lawyer tried to counter, arguing that the affair had no bearing on her ability to be a good mother. But Tom was relentless. He brought out the financial records, showing how Lisa had siphoned money from our joint accounts to fund her illicit activities. Furthermore, Tom continued, Mrs. Thompson's actions have caused significant emotional and financial harm to Mr. Thompson. She used their joint resources to support her affair, diverting funds that should have been used for their family's well-being. The judge listened intently, her expression neutral but attentive. Lisa looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair, her eyes cast downward. "Mr. Thompson," the judge finally said, turning to me, "do you have anything to add?" I stood up, my voice steady but filled with the weight of my pain. "Your Honor, I trusted Lisa with my life. I built my world around our family, only to find out that it was all a lie. She not only betrayed me but also deceived our children. I want to ensure they are protected from further harm." The judge nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. This court takes these matters very seriously. We will consider all evidence presented before making a decision." The rest of the proceedings felt like a blur. Tom continued to present our case, systematically dismantling any defense Lisa's lawyer tried to put up. By the end of the day, it was clear that the evidence was overwhelmingly in my favor. The judge took a recess to deliberate, and I stepped outside the courtroom, needing a breath of fresh air. Lisa followed me out, her face a mask of desperation. "Mike, please," she pleaded. "Don't do this. Think about the kids." I turned to face her, my anger barely contained. "I am thinking about the kids, Lisa. They deserve better than this, better than you." Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt no sympathy. "You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." Before she could respond, Tom called me back inside. The judge was ready to deliver her verdict. "After reviewing all the evidence," the judge began, "it is clear that Mrs. Thompson has committed adultery and has caused significant harm to Mr. Thompson and their children. Therefore, I grant Mr. Thompson full custody of the children. Mrs. Thompson will be granted supervised visitation rights. Additionally, Mr. Thompson will retain ownership of the family home and receive spousal support from Mrs. Thompson." The judge's words washed over me like a wave of relief. It was over. I had won. Lisa looked devastated, but I couldn't afford to care anymore. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. The courtroom emptied, and I felt a sense of closure, knowing that justice had been served. As I walked out, Tom clapped me on the back. "You did it, Mike. It's finally over." "Thanks, Tom," I replied. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Now comes the hard part," he said, his tone more serious. "Rebuilding your life." I nodded, knowing he was right. The legal battle might be over, but the emotional scars would take much longer to heal. But for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. I could start anew, free from the lies and betrayals that had plagued my past. The drive home was filled with a strange sense of peace. Kevin and Jenny would be home soon, and I needed to be there for them, to help them understand that we would get through this together. As I pulled into the driveway, I looked at the house that had once felt like a prison. Now, it was a place of new beginnings. I walked inside, ready to face whatever came next with a renewed sense of purpose. Lisa and Jason had tried to destroy me, but they had only made me stronger, and I would make sure they never forgot the lesson they had learned. With the legal battle behind me, the reality of rebuilding my life without Lisa began to set in. The house, once filled with memories of our family, now felt like a hollow shell. But it was my home, and I was determined to fill it with new, happier memories. Kevin and Jenny were struggling to adjust. The news of their true parentage had been a heavy blow, and the fallout from the divorce added to their confusion and pain. I knew that, more than anything, they needed stability and reassurance. One morning, as I was making breakfast, Kevin came into the kitchen, his face a mix of anger and sadness. "Dad, why did Mom do this? Why did she lie to us?" I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Kevin, sometimes people make bad choices that hurt others. Your mom made mistakes, but it doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It's just complicated." "But she lied about everything," he said, his voice breaking. I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I know it's hard, son, but the one thing you can always believe is that I love you and your sister. We're going to get through this together." Jenny joined us, her eyes red from crying. "Dad, are we ever going to be okay again?" I pulled her into a hug. "Yes, Jenny. It's going to take time, but we'll be okay. We have each other, and that's what matters." In the weeks that followed, I focused on creating a new routine for us. I made sure to be there for the kids, helping them with their homework, cooking meals, and spending quality time together. We went on outings to the park, watched movies, and even took up new hobbies. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. One evening, as we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Jason standing there, looking worn and defeated. "Mike, can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "What do you want, Jason?" "I just wanted to apologize," he said, his eyes filled with regret. "I know I've ruined everything and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know how sorry I am." I stared at him, the man who had once been my best friend. "It's too late for apologies, Jason. You and Lisa made your choices, and now you have to live with them." He nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "I understand. I needed to say it." I watched as he walked away, feeling a strange mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a small sense of closure. It was time to move on. The next few months were a period of healing and growth. I sought therapy for myself and the kids, helping us navigate the complex emotions that came with our new reality. Slowly, we began to find our footing. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to take the kids to a nearby hiking trail. The fresh air and physical activity were a welcome change from the tense atmosphere that had settled over our home. As we walked through the woods, Kevin suddenly stopped and turned to me. "Dad, I know it's been hard, but I think we're going to be okay. I'm glad we have you." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I'm glad I have you too, Kevin. We're a team, and we're going to be just fine." Jenny, who had been quietly listening, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we are." That evening, as we sat around the dinner table, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for months. We were healing, slowly but surely, and I knew that brighter days were ahead. The road to recovery was long and challenging, but it was also filled with moments of joy and connection. Lisa and Jason's betrayal had shattered our world, but it hadn't broken us. We were stronger than that. As I tucked the kids into bed that night, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I would continue to be there for them, to support and love them through every challenge. We had been through hell and back, but we had come out stronger on the other side. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. We had faced the storm and survived. Now it was time to rebuild and create a new, happier life together. And that was a journey I was ready to embark on with my children by my side. With the custody battle and divorce behind me, I found a strange sense of clarity. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it had transformed into a cold, calculated resolve. Lisa and Jason might have thought they could move on, but I wasn't done with them yet. The next phase of my plan was about to unfold, and it would be as relentless as the agony they had inflicted on me. I started by making an anonymous call to Jason's employer. Equipped with the incriminating evidence I had gathered, I outlined his unethical behavior and moral indiscretions. Jason worked for a prestigious law firm, and his actions would not be taken lightly. Within days, rumors began to swirl around the office, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the hammer fell. Meanwhile, I hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Jason's finances. I wanted to uncover any skeletons in his closet that could be used against him. The investigator, a seasoned professional named Mark, was thorough and efficient. He discovered that Jason had been embezzling funds from his firm to support his lavish lifestyle and secret rendezvous with Lisa. This was the final nail in the coffin. One evening, as I sat in my home office reviewing the latest findings, my phone buzzed with a message from Mark. "Got everything we need. Meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. to discuss next steps." The following day, I met Mark at a discreet cafe on the outskirts of town. He handed me a thick folder, its contents damning. "This should do the trick," he said with a smirk. "He won't know what hit him." "Perfect," I replied, flipping through the documents. "I want this information sent to his firm's partners anonymously. Make sure it's untraceable." "Consider it done," Mark said, standing to leave. "Good luck, Mike. He's not going to come out of this unscathed." With the wheels in motion, I turned my attention to Lisa. I knew she was struggling with the fallout from our divorce, but I wanted to ensure that her life was as difficult as possible. I started by spreading the word about her affair in our social circles. Friends and acquaintances who had once admired and respected her now shunned her, their judgment harsh and unforgiving. One evening, while the kids were at a friend's house, I decided to visit Lisa. I needed to confront her one last time, to make sure she understood the full extent of her betrayal. I arrived at her new apartment, a far cry from the home we had shared. The building was run down, a reflection of the life she had chosen. I knocked on the door, and after a few moments, she opened it, her face a mix of surprise and apprehension. "Mike, what are you doing here?" she asked, stepping aside to let me in. "I wanted to see how you're doing," I said, my tone cold and detached. "And to let you know that this isn't over." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and fear. "What do you mean?" "You destroyed our family, Lisa. You lied to me, to the kids, and yourself, and now you're going to face the consequences." She sank into a chair, her hands trembling. "Mike, please. I've already lost so much. Can't we just move on?" "Move on?" I laughed bitterly. "You think it's that simple? Do you think you can just pick up the pieces and start over?" "No, Lisa. You're going to feel the same pain you caused me." She started to cry, but I felt no sympathy. I had seen enough tears to last a lifetime. "You made your choices," I continued. "Now live with them." I turned to leave, but before I stepped out, I paused. "And one more thing. Tell Jason he's about to lose everything. His job, his reputation, his freedom. You both deserve each other." The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. I walked away, feeling a sense of vindication. The first part of my plan was complete, but there was still more to come. In the days that followed, the fallout from my actions began to take shape. Jason was fired from his job, and his embezzlement was exposed. He faced legal action and financial ruin. Lisa, ostracized by her friends and struggling to make ends meet, found herself in a downward spiral. I knew this was just the beginning. I had more plans in store for them, more ways to make them pay. Revenge was a dish best served cold, and I intended to savor every moment of it. As I watched their lives crumble, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. They had taken everything from me, but in the end, I was the one who emerged stronger. My life was far from perfect, but it was mine, and I was determined to rebuild it on my terms. The road ahead was long, but I was ready for the journey. I had faced the worst and come out the other side. Now it was time to start anew, free from the shadows of the past. And I would make sure that Lisa and Jason never forgot the lesson they had learned. Betrayal comes with a heavy price, and I was more than willing to make them pay it. The impact of my actions rippled through Lisa and Jason's lives like a destructive wave. Jason's career was in shambles. His embezzlement scandal became the talk of the town, and his reputation was irreparably tarnished. He faced not only civil lawsuits from his former employers, but also potential criminal charges. His luxurious lifestyle evaporated overnight, and he was forced to sell his assets to cover legal fees and restitution. For Lisa, the situation was equally dire. She lost her job when her affair became public knowledge, and her social standing plummeted. Friends and colleagues turned their backs on her, and she found herself isolated and alone. Every attempt she made to rebuild her life was met with scorn and rejection. Her once vibrant social circle had disintegrated, leaving her in a state of despair. Meanwhile, I focused on creating a stable and loving environment for Kevin and Jenny. The upheaval had taken a toll on them, but that they were slowly beginning to adjust. Therapy sessions helped them process their emotions, and our bond grew stronger as we navigated this difficult period together. I made it my mission to be there for them, to provide the stability and support they needed. One evening, as I was helping Jenny with her homework, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. "Mike, I heard about everything. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. If you need anything, I'm here for you." I replied with a simple thank you, but the message reminded me that not everyone had turned away. There were still people who cared, and who understood the pain I had endured. It was a small comfort, but it meant a lot. As the days turned into weeks, I began to see the fruits of my labor. Jason's court date was set, and it was clear that he would face severe penalties. Lisa struggled to find steady employment, her name now synonymous with scandal. The satisfaction I felt was tempered by the knowledge that I still had a long way to go in rebuilding my life. One afternoon, I received a call from Tom. "Mike, I have some news. Jason's legal team reached out. They want to settle out of court. It seems he's willing to pay a substantial sum to avoid a public trial." I considered this for a moment. How much are we talking about? Tom gave me the figure, and it was significant. It's a good offer, Mike. It would cover a lot of the expenses and give you a fresh start. I nodded. Tell them I'll consider it, but I want a written apology from him. I want him to acknowledge what he's done. I'll relay the message, Tom said. And Mike, you're doing the right thing. This could be the closure you need. As I hung up, I felt a sense of relief. A settlement would provide financial stability, but more importantly, it would force Jason to admit his wrongdoing. It was a small victory, but it was significant. That evening, as I sat with Kevin and Jenny, I told them about the potential settlement. This means we can start fresh, I explained. We can move forward without this hanging over our heads. Kevin looked thoughtful. Does that mean we won't have to see Mom or Jason again? I hesitated. It means they'll have to face the consequences of their actions. But they're still your family. You can decide how much you want to see them. Jenny nodded slowly. I just want us to be happy again. I smiled, pulling them both into a hug. We will be. It'll take time, but we'll get there. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal negotiations and finalizing the settlement. Jason's written apology arrived, and as I read it, I felt a strange sense of closure. He acknowledged his betrayal and the pain he had caused, and though it didn't erase the past, it was a step toward healing. With the settlement funds, I was able to secure our financial future. I paid off debts, set up college funds for the kids, and even started planning a small vacation for us. It was a chance to escape the memories and create new ones. One sunny morning, as we packed the car for our trip, Kevin looked at me with a rare smile. Dad, do you think we'll ever really be okay? I hugged him tightly. Yes, Kevin, we will be. We've been through a lot, but we're stronger now, and we have each other. As we drove away from the house, the weight of the past began to lift. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was filled with possibilities. For the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. The journey of healing was far from over, but we were on the right path. Lisa and Jason had faced their reckoning, and now it was time for us to build a new life, one filled with love, resilience, and the promise of better days to come. With the legal battles and settlements behind us, it was time to focus on the future. The funds from the settlement provided a much-needed cushion, allowing us to breathe a little easier and focus on healing. The scars of betrayal were still there, but they were beginning to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience and determination. Our first step towards rebuilding our lives was moving to a new home. The house we had shared with Lisa was filled with too many painful memories. I found a cozy 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood not far from where we had lived. It wasn't as large or grand, but it felt like a fresh start. Moving day was bittersweet. As we packed up our belongings, I watched Kevin and Jenny carefully wrap their favorite items, their faces a mix of sadness and excitement. This move symbolizes the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. The new house quickly became a sanctuary. We painted the walls together, each of us choosing colors that made us happy. Kevin opted for a deep blue, while Jenny chose a soft lavender. My room was a calming shade of green, symbolizing new growth and tranquility. The act of transforming the space helped us bond and create new, happier memories. One weekend, we decided to host a housewarming party. I invited a few close friends and neighbors, people who had supported us through the toughest times. As the house filled with laughter and chatter, I felt a warmth that had been missing for so long. It was a reminder that we were not alone and that there was still joy to be found. Kevin and Jenny slowly started to open up about their feelings. Therapy sessions continued to help, but it was the everyday moments that made the most difference. We spent evenings playing board games, watching movies, and talking about our hopes and dreams. The bond between us grew stronger, fortified by the trials we had endured. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Kevin turned to me. Dad, do you think we'll ever really move on from all this? I thought for a moment, choosing my words carefully. I think moving on doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means learning from it, growing stronger, and finding happiness despite it. We've been through a lot, but we're still here. And we have each other. Jenny nodded, her eyes thoughtful. I like our new life. It's different, but it feels better. I smiled, feeling a surge of pride. It does. We're making it better every day. As we settled into our new routines, I found solace in small victories. Watching Kevin excel in his soccer games, seeing Jenny's artwork displayed at school, and simply enjoying peaceful moments at home. These were the things that mattered, the moments that made all the struggles worthwhile. I also began to explore new interests and hobbies. I joined a local hiking club, finding peace and camaraderie in the great outdoors. The physical activity and the beauty of nature were therapeutic, helping me to clear my mind and focus on the present. One day, during a particularly challenging hike, I met a woman named Rachel. She was kind, intelligent, and had a warm smile that made me feel at ease. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself opening up to her in a way I hadn't with anyone in a long time. Rachel had her own story of loss and rebuilding, and we bonded over our shared experiences. She became a friend, and over time, something more. It was a slow, cautious journey, but it was filled with genuine connection and mutual respect. Introducing Rachel to Kevin and Jenny was a significant step. I wanted to ensure they felt comfortable and secure with the changes in our lives. To my relief, they took to her quickly, appreciating her kindness and understanding. One evening, as we all sat down for dinner, I looked around the table at the people who mattered most to me. Kevin and Jenny were laughing at one of Rachel's stories, their faces lit up with joy. At that moment, I realized how far we had come. Our lives had been shattered, but we had picked up the pieces and built something new, something stronger. The journey wasn't over, and there would still be challenges ahead, but we were ready to face them together. Lisa and Jason had become a distant memory, their influence on our lives waning. They had tried to destroy us, but instead, they had inadvertently helped us find our true strength. We had emerged from the darkness, stronger and more united than ever. As I looked at my children and Rachel, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. We had survived the storm, and now we were ready to embrace the future. It was a future filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. With our new life settling into a rhythm, I found myself reflecting on the journey we had taken. The bitterness of betrayal had started to give way to acceptance, and I began to understand that moving forward meant not only building new memories, but also coming to terms with the past. There were still unanswered questions and lingering pain, and I knew it was time to address them head-on. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I sat down with a glass of whiskey, contemplating the path ahead. Kevin and Jenny were at a sleepover, and the house was eerily quiet. It was the perfect moment to face the ghost that still haunted me. I pulled out the box of evidence I had gathered during the divorce, photos, letters, and emails. Each piece was a reminder of the deception that had torn our family apart. But instead of feeling the familiar sting of anger, I felt a strange sense of detachment. It was time to let go of the hatred and focus on healing. The next day, I called my therapist, Dr. Martin, and scheduled an appointment. I needed to talk through my feelings and find a way to forgive, not for Lisa and Jason's sake, but for my own. Holding on to the pain was exhausting, and I wanted to be free from its grip. During our session, Dr. Martin listened intently as I poured out my heart. "Mike," she said gently, "forgiveness is not about condoning what they did. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. It's about finding peace within yourself." I nodded, understanding her words but struggling with the reality of it. "How do I start?" I asked. "Start by acknowledging your pain and allowing yourself to feel it fully," she advised. "Then gradually, let it go. Focus on the positive aspects of your life and the new relationships you've built. And most importantly, be kind to yourself." Leaving her office, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Forgiveness would be a journey, but it was one I was ready to undertake. That weekend, I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Kevin and Jenny. They were old enough to understand more about what had happened, and I wanted to ensure they weren't harboring unresolved emotions. We sat down in the living room, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. "Guys," I began, "I know the past few years have been incredibly tough on all of us. I want to make sure we're all on the same page and that we're healing together." Kevin nodded, his expression serious. "Dad, I still don't understand why Mom did what she did. It hurts to think about it." Jenny looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "I miss the way things used to be. I miss Mom, but I'm also so angry at her." I took a deep breath. "It's okay to feel that way. I feel it too. but we need to find a way to move forward. Holding on to the anger won't help us heal. We need to forgive, not forget, but forgive." Kevin frowned. "How do we do that?" "By talking about our feelings, by supporting each other, and by focusing on the positive aspects of our lives now," I said. "We've built something beautiful out of the wreckage. We're stronger than we were before." Jenny looked up, her eyes filled with determination. "I want to move forward, Dad. I want us to be happy." I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "We will be, Jenny. We're in this together." In the weeks that followed, we made a conscious effort to talk more openly about our feelings. Family dinners became a time for sharing and connecting, and our bond grew even stronger. Rachel continued to be a supportive presence, her kindness and understanding helping to bridge the gaps left by Lisa's betrayal. One day, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Lisa. My heart pounded as I opened it, unsure of what to expect. The letter was handwritten, and the words were carefully chosen. "Mike, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this. I'm deeply sorry for everything I did. I hurt you and the kids in ways I can't even begin to understand. I made terrible choices, and I have to live with the consequences. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I am working on becoming a better person. I hope that someday we can all find peace, Lisa." I read the letter several times, absorbing the weight of her words. It wasn't an excuse, nor was it an attempt to win back our trust. It was a genuine expression of remorse. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of empathy for her. She had made her bed, but she was also trying to take responsibility for her actions. I didn't know if I was ready to fully forgive, but I knew that holding on to the hatred wasn't helping anyone. I decided to write back, not with forgiveness, but with a promise to try. "Lisa, thank you for your letter. It means a lot that you are taking responsibility for your actions. While I can't say I forgive you, I am willing to try to let go of the anger. For our children's sake and my peace, I am working towards healing. I hope you find your path to redemption. Mike." Sending the letter felt like closing a chapter. It was a small step, but it was significant. As I continued to focus on my children, my relationship with Rachel, and my personal growth, I felt the pieces of my life falling into place. Healing was not a destination, but a journey, one that I was committed to taking. With each passing day, the pain lessened, replaced by a sense of resilience and hope. We had survived the storm, and now it was time to bask in the sunlight of our new beginning. The act of sending that letter to Lisa marked a turning point. It was as if I had unlocked a door that had been keeping me prisoner. The shadows of the past were still there, but they no longer held the same power over me. Forgiveness, as Dr. Martin had said, was a journey, and I was taking my first steps. As the months went by, life began to take on a sense of normalcy. Kevin and Jenny were thriving, their laughter and smiles a testament to their resilience. Our new home had become a place of warmth and comfort, filled with the sound of new memories being created. Rachel had become an integral part of our lives. Her gentle presence and unwavering support were a balm to our wounded hearts. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset, she turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mike, have you ever thought about what comes next? Not just for you and the kids, but for us?" I took her hand, feeling the warmth of her touch. "I think about it all the time, Rachel. You've been a rock for us. I can't imagine our lives without you." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the colors of the setting sun. "I feel the same way. I love being a part of this family. I love you, Mike." The words were simple, but they carried a weight of truth and commitment. "I love you too, Rachel, more than I can say." We shared a kiss, a promise of a future filled with hope and love. It was a new beginning, a chance to build something beautiful from the ashes of the past. One Saturday morning, Kevin and Jenny surprised me with breakfast in bed. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, and fresh fruit, all arranged on a tray with a handmade card. "Happy Father's Day, Dad!" they exclaimed in unison. I was overwhelmed with emotion. "Thank you guys, this is amazing." Jenny handed me the card, her face beaming with pride. "We wanted to make this day special for you. You've been the best dad ever." I hugged them both tightly, feeling the depth of their love. "You two are the best gifts I could ever ask for." As we enjoyed breakfast together, I felt a sense of contentment that had been missing for so long. The past had shaped us, but it no longer defined us. We were a family, stronger and more united than ever. Later that day, we decided to take a trip to a nearby lake. It was a place we had visited often before the divorce, and I wanted to create new, happy memories there. We packed a picnic, loaded the car with blankets and fishing gear, and set off on our adventure. The lake was as beautiful as I remembered, its clear waters reflecting the sky above. We found a perfect spot by the shore and set up our picnic. Kevin and Jenny immediately ran off to explore, their laughter echoing across the water. Rachel and I sat together, watching them with fond smiles. "This place is magical," she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. "It is," I agreed, "and it's even more magical with you here." We spent the day fishing, swimming, and basking in the sun. The kids caught a few fish, and we cheered them on, celebrating each small victory. It was a day of simple pleasures, a reminder that happiness could be found in the little things. As the sun began to set, we gathered around a campfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. Kevin told a funny story about a prank he had played at school, and Jenny shared her latest drawing, a beautiful depiction of our family by the lake. "This is perfect, Jenny," I said, admiring her artwork. "You have a real talent." She blushed with pride. "Thanks, Dad. I wanted to capture this moment." Rachel took my hand, her eyes shining with love. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" "We have," I replied, feeling a deep sense of gratitude, "and I wouldn't trade it for anything." That night, as we lay under the stars, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led us to this place of healing and hope. We were stronger, more resilient, and ready to embrace the future. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. Kevin excelled in his soccer games, earning a spot on the school team. Jenny's artwork was featured in a local gallery, and we celebrated her success with a special dinner. Rachel and I continued to grow closer, our bond deepening with each passing day. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, I felt a surge of emotion. "Rachel, there's something I want to ask you." She looked at me, her eyes filled with curiosity. "What is it, Mike?" I took a deep breath, reaching into my pocket. "Rachel, you've brought so much joy and love into our lives. I can't imagine the future without you. Will you marry me?" Her eyes widened in surprise and joy. "Yes, Mike. Yes, I will." We embraced, the promise of a new chapter unfolding before us. It was a moment of pure happiness, a testament to the power of love and resilience. As we shared the news with Kevin and Jenny, their faces lit up with excitement. "We're going to be a real family," Jenny exclaimed, hugging Rachel tightly. Kevin grinned, giving me a high five. "Congrats, Dad. You deserve this." In the weeks that followed, we planned our wedding, a small and intimate ceremony by the lake. Surrounded by our closest friends and family, we exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other through all of life's challenges. The past had been painful, but it had also taught us the value of love, forgiveness, and resilience. As we celebrated our union, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever the future held. Our journey was far from over, but it was filled with hope and promise. Together, we would build a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And that was a future worth fighting for. The joy of our new beginning was palpable, but there were still lingering shadows from the past that needed to be addressed. Lisa and Jason's presence loomed like specters, reminders of the betrayal that had torn our family apart. I knew that for true closure, a final confrontation was necessary. It had been months since I last saw Lisa. Her apology letter had been a step towards reconciliation, but there was still much left unsaid. I decided it was time to meet her, face to face, to lay everything to rest. I called Lisa and arranged to meet at a quiet cafe where we wouldn't be disturbed. When I arrived, she was already there, nervously stirring her coffee. She looked up as I approached, her eyes a mix of apprehension and hope. "Mike," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "thank you for agreeing to meet with me." I nodded, taking a seat across from her. "I think it's time we had a real conversation, Lisa. There are things we need to clear up." She took a deep breath, nodding. "I understand. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I know I owe you more than just an apology." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "Why, Lisa? Why did you do it? We had a life, a family. What drove you to betray us like that?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she struggled to find the words. Mike, I've asked myself that question 1,000 times. I think I was unhappy and restless. Jason was an escape, but it was wrong, and I see that now. I hurt you and the kids in ways I can never make up for. Her honesty was disarming. I had expected excuses, but not this raw vulnerability. You shattered our lives, Lisa. Kevin and Jenny are still dealing with the fallout. They miss you, but they're also so angry. She wiped away a tear, her voice breaking. I miss them too, every day. I know I've lost the right to be their mother, but I want to be a part of their lives if they'll let me. I sighed, the weight of the past pressing down on me. They need time, Lisa. We all do. But maybe someday they can find it in their hearts to forgive you. For now, we're moving forward, building something new. She nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. I understand. Thank you, Mike, for giving me this chance to explain. We sat in silence for a moment, the air heavy with unspoken words. Finally, I stood up, ready to leave. Take care of yourself, Lisa. I hope you find your path to redemption. She watched me go, her face a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. It wasn't closure in the traditional sense, but it was a step towards healing. The next day, I received a call from Jason. His tone was different from the last time we spoke, more humble, almost desperate. Mike, can we talk? Please, I need to see you. I hesitated but agreed to meet him at a local park. When I arrived, he was sitting on a bench, looking out over the water. He looked up as I approached, his face lined with stress and regret. Mike, thanks for meeting me, he said, standing to shake my hand. I nodded curtly. What do you want, Jason? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my friends. I'm facing legal battles that could ruin me. I know I deserve it, but I needed to see you, to ask for your forgiveness. I studied him, seeing the broken man before me. The anger that had fueled my actions was still there, but it was tempered by a sense of pity. You destroyed my family, Jason. You lied to me and betrayed my trust. Forgiveness isn't something I can just give. It's something you have to earn. He nodded, his eyes filled with regret. I understand. I'm trying to make amends, to become a better person. I needed to face you, to acknowledge the pain I caused. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of finality. I've moved on, Jason. My life is better without you in it. But for the sake of closure, I'm willing to let go of the past. Just stay away from my family. Let us heal. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Thank you, Mike. I wish you and the kids nothing but the best. As I walked away, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The confrontations with Lisa and Jason had been necessary, painful steps toward healing. They had faced the consequences of their actions, and now it was time for me to fully embrace the future. That evening, as I sat with Rachel on the porch, I felt a sense of peace. It's done, I said quietly. I faced them both, and it's finally over. Rachel took my hand, her eyes filled with love and understanding. I'm proud of you, Mike. You've come so far. I smiled, feeling the warmth of her support. We've come far together, and now we can truly move forward. The past was a part of our story, but it no longer defined us. We had emerged from the shadows, stronger and more united than ever. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. With the past finally behind us, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The confrontations with Lisa and Jason had brought a closure I hadn't thought possible. Now it was time to focus on building a new life, one filled with hope, joy, and endless possibilities. The wedding planning with Rachel was a welcome distraction and a source of immense happiness. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony by the lake, a place that had become a symbol of our new beginning. Kevin and Jenny were excited, their enthusiasm infectious as we picked out decorations, flowers, and their outfits for the big day. One sunny afternoon, we took a trip to a local park where we met with the wedding planner. Kevin and Jenny ran ahead, exploring the area and playing in the open fields. Rachel and I walked hand in hand, discussing the final details. I can't believe how far we've come, Rachel said, her eyes shining with joy. From all the pain and betrayal to this moment, it feels like a dream. I squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. You've been my rock, Rachel. I couldn't have done this without you. She smiled, leaning in for a kiss. We're a team, Mike, always. As the wedding day approached, the excitement in our home grew. Friends and family members arrived, filling the house with laughter and love. My parents, who had been a constant source of support, were there to help with the preparations. The night before the wedding, we held a small rehearsal dinner. It was a chance to relax, share stories, and bask in the love and support of those closest to us. Kevin and Jenny gave heartfelt speeches, expressing their happiness and gratitude for our new life. Dad, I'm so proud of you, Kevin said, his voice steady. You've shown us what it means to be strong and to never give up. I'm excited for our future. Jenny nodded, her eyes filled with emotion. Rachel, thank you for loving us and for making Dad so happy. We're lucky to have you in our lives. There wasn't a dry eye in the room as we hugged and shared our gratitude. The pain of the past was a distant memory, overshadowed by the overwhelming love and joy that filled the space. The wedding day dawned bright and clear, the perfect setting for our new beginning. As I stood by the lake, dressed in a simple yet elegant suit, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. Friends and family gathered, their faces alight with happiness. When Rachel appeared, walking down the aisle with Jenny as her flower girl, my heart swelled with love. She looked radiant, her smile lighting up the world. Kevin stood by my side as my best man, his face beaming with pride. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with heartfelt vows and promises of love and support. We exchanged rings, a symbol of our commitment to each other and our new life together. As we kissed to seal our vows, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. The reception was a joyous celebration. We danced, laughed, and shared stories under the twinkling lights strung across the venue. Kevin and Jenny joined us on the dance floor, their faces glowing with happiness. It was a night to remember, a testament to the strength of our family and the power of love. As the evening drew to a close, Rachel and I stood by the lake, watching the stars reflect on the water's surface. We did it, she whispered, her arms wrapped around me. We've built something beautiful. I held her close, feeling a profound sense of contentment. Yes, we have, and this is just the beginning. In the weeks that followed, we settled into our new life as a blended family. Kevin and Jenny thrived, their laughter filling the house. Rachel and I continued to grow closer, our bond deepening with each passing day. I also focused on my career, finding new opportunities and challenges that reignited my passion. With Rachel's support, I pursued a promotion at work, and I began taking evening classes to further my education. It was a time of growth and renewal, both personally and professionally. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Kevin shared some exciting news. Dad, I've been selected as the captain of the soccer team. That's incredible, Kevin, I exclaimed, beaming with pride. You've worked so hard for this. Jenny chimed in with her news, and my art teacher wants to submit my drawings to a national competition. That's amazing, Jenny, Rachel said, her eyes shining with pride. You're both doing so well. We're so proud of you. As we celebrated their achievements, I realized how far we had come. The pain and betrayal of the past had given way to a future filled with hope and possibility. We had faced our challenges head-on and emerged stronger, more united, and ready to embrace whatever came our way. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We had built a new family, one founded on love, trust, and resilience. As I looked around the table at the faces of those I loved most, I knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led us to this place of peace and happiness. And in that moment, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the past that had shaped us, for the present that we cherished, and for the future that awaited us. We were ready to face it together, stronger and more united than ever before. As we settled into our new life, it became clear that the journey of healing and growth was an ongoing process. Each day brought new challenges and triumphs, but our bond as a family continued to strengthen. The experiences of the past have taught us resilience, and now we are using that strength to build a future filled with hope and joy. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Rachel brought up an idea that had been on her mind. Mike, I've been thinking, how would you feel about starting a community project? Something that allows us to give back and help others who might be going through tough times. I looked at her, intrigued. What kind of project? Rachel smiled, her eyes lighting up with excitement. I was thinking about starting a support group for families who've been through betrayal and divorce. We could share our experiences, provide emotional support, and help them find their way through the pain. Kevin and Jenny, who had been listening intently, nodded enthusiastically. That's a great idea, Rachel, Kevin said. We've been through so much, and it could help others. Jenny agreed. Yeah, and we could even involve kids, so they don't feel alone, like art therapy or sports activities. I felt a surge of pride and love for my family. I think it's a wonderful idea. We've come so far, and if we can use our experiences to help others, it would be incredibly rewarding. Over the next few weeks, we put our plan into action. We reached out to local community centers, churches, and schools, spreading the word about our new support group. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Families who had been suffering in silence began to reach out, eager to find a safe space to share their stories and seek support. Our first meeting was held at a local community center. Rachel, Kevin, Jenny, and I arrived early to set up. We arranged chairs in a circle, set up a table with refreshments, and prepared materials for activities and discussions. As people started to arrive, I felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Rachel began the meeting by introducing our family and sharing our story. Her honesty and vulnerability set the tone for the evening, creating an atmosphere of trust and openness. One by one, the participants shared their own experiences, each story unique yet strikingly similar in its themes of pain, betrayal, and the struggle to heal. Kevin and Jenny led a group for the children, using art and games to help them express their feelings. Watching them interact with the other kids, I felt a deep sense of pride. They had turned their pain into a source of strength and compassion. As the weeks went by, our support group grew. We held weekly meetings, organized workshops, and even planned outings and social events. The sense of community and connection was palpable. We were no longer just healing ourselves, we were helping others find their way through the darkness. One evening, after a particularly moving meeting, Rachel and I sat on the porch, reflecting on our journey. I'm so proud of what we've created, she said, leaning into me. We've turned something painful into something beautiful. I kissed her forehead, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. We've done it together, and I couldn't be happier. Our lives continued to evolve in beautiful ways. Kevin excelled in his role as soccer captain, leading his team to several victories. Jenny's artwork won accolades, and she was invited to showcase her work in a national competition. Rachel and I grew closer every day, our love deepening as we navigated the challenges and joys of our blended family. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the mountains, a place we had always wanted to visit. We rented a cozy cabin and spent our days hiking, exploring, and enjoying the breathtaking scenery. It was a chance to disconnect from the everyday hustle and reconnect with nature and each other. One evening, as we sat around a campfire, Kevin and Jenny surprised us with a special gift. We've been working on something, Kevin said, pulling out a scrapbook. It's a collection of our memories, from the time we moved into the new house until now. Jenny handed the scrapbook to Rachel and me, her eyes shining with excitement. We wanted to show you how much we appreciate everything you've done for us. You've turned our lives around. As we flipped through the pages, I was overwhelmed by the love and gratitude that radiated from each photo and handwritten note. It was a testament to our journey, a reminder of how far we had come and the beautiful life we were building together. Tears filled Rachel's eyes as she hugged Kevin and Jenny. This is the most precious gift. Thank you so much. I joined the embrace, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. We've created something truly special, and this is just the beginning. As the stars twinkled above us and the fire crackled warmly, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Our journey had been filled with twists and turns, but it had led us to this moment of pure happiness. The future was bright, and together, we were ready to embrace all the adventures and challenges it would bring. Our lives were a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bond of family. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to write the next chapter of our story. And with each day, we were reminded that no matter what challenges came our way, we had each other, and that was more than enough. As the weeks turned into months, our new life continued to flourish. The support group we had started became a cornerstone of the community, providing solace and strength to families dealing with the aftermath of betrayal and divorce. Our family had found a rhythm, and the wounds of the past were healing, but there was one last piece of the puzzle that needed to be addressed. I had always known that there were more secrets buried beneath the surface of Lisa's betrayal. One evening, while going through some old papers in the attic, I stumbled upon a box I had never seen before. It was filled with documents, letters, and photographs that told a different story, a story I needed to understand fully. The next morning, I decided to share my discovery with Rachel, Kevin, and Jenny. We gathered in the living room, the box placed carefully on the coffee table. "I found this last night," I began. "It's from a time in our lives that I thought I knew everything about, but it seems there are still some secrets left to uncover." Kevin and Jenny exchanged curious glances, while Rachel reached out to take my hand. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," she said reassuringly. As we began to sift through the contents, the first thing that caught my eye was a stack of letters addressed to Lisa from a name I didn't recognize. Mark. The letters were dated from around the time our marriage had started to fall apart. My heart sank as I read through the first few, realizing that Mark was someone Lisa had been seeing even before Jason. "Who's Mark?" Kevin asked, his voice tinged with concern. "I don't know," I admitted. "But it looks like he was a significant part of Lisa's life. This changes a lot." Jenny found a photograph at the bottom of the box. It was of Lisa and a man who must have been Mark, taken at a beach somewhere. They looked happy and carefree. It was a stark contrast to the Lisa I had known in those final years of our marriage. Rachel looked at me, her expression thoughtful. "Mike, maybe it's time to talk to Lisa again. There are still questions that need answers." I nodded, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on me. "You're right. I need to understand the full story." I reached out to Lisa and arranged to meet at the same cafe where we had talked before. When I arrived, she was already there, looking anxious. The box of letters and photographs sat on the table between us. "Mike," she began, her voice trembling, "what is this all about?" "I found these in the attic," I said, gesturing to the box. "I need to know who Mark is and why you never told me about him." Lisa's face paled and she took a deep breath. "Mark was someone I met a long time ago before Jason. He was my first real love. We reconnected when our marriage started to have problems. I was lost, confused, and he made me feel alive again. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep this secret?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I was ashamed, Mike. I knew I was hurting you and the kids, but I didn't know how to stop. Mark was a mistake, a symptom of my unhappiness. When things ended with him, I thought I could make things right, but then Jason happened." Her honesty was painful, but it also brought a sense of clarity. "Lisa, our marriage fell apart because of secrets and lies. You owed it to me and the kids, to be honest." "I know," she whispered, "and I'm so sorry. I wish I could go back and change things, but all I can do now is be truthful. Mark is no longer in my life, and I've been trying to move forward just like you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "We're all trying to move forward, but understanding the past helps us heal. Thank you for being honest, Lisa." We sat in silence for a moment, the air heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, I stood up, ready to leave. "Take care, Lisa. I hope you find peace." As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of closure. The past was a tangled web of secrets and lies, but now the final pieces were in place. It was time to fully embrace the future. When I returned home, Rachel, Kevin, and Jenny were waiting for me, their faces filled with concern. "What happened?" Jenny asked, her voice soft. I sat down, pulling them close. "I got the answers I needed. There were more secrets, but now we know the full story. It's time to let go and focus on what we have." Kevin nodded, his expression resolute. "We're stronger now. We can face anything together." Rachel squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with love. "We're a family, and nothing can break us." In the days that followed, we continued to build our new life. The support group flourished, helping more families find their way through difficult times. Kevin and Jenny excelled in their activities, their confidence growing with each passing day. Rachel and I deepened our relationship, finding joy in the simple moments of everyday life. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take a family hike to the top of a nearby hill. The view from the summit was breathtaking, a panoramic vista of the life we had built together. As we stood there, taking in the beauty of the world around us, I felt a profound sense of peace. "We've come a long way," I said, my voice filled with emotion, "and we have so much to look forward to." Jenny smiled, her eyes sparkling. "This is just the beginning." Kevin nodded in agreement. "We're ready for whatever comes next." Rachel wrapped her arms around me, her love and support a constant source of strength. "Together we can face anything." As we descended the hill, I felt a sense of anticipation and excitement for the future. The past had shaped us, but it no longer defined us. We were a family, bound by love and resilience, ready to embrace the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The journey had been long and arduous, filled with twists and turns, but it had led us to this moment of clarity and peace. And with each step, I knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be, together, stronger, and ready for whatever the future held. The revelations of the past had finally been laid to rest, and we could now look forward with clear eyes and open hearts. Our family had emerged from the turmoil stronger and more united than ever. It was time to fully embrace the future and the opportunities it held. Our support group had grown beyond our expectations, becoming a beacon of hope for many families in the community. We decided to expand our efforts by creating a foundation dedicated to providing resources, counseling, and support for those affected by betrayal and divorce. We named it the Second Chances Foundation, symbolizing the new beginnings we had found and wished to share with others. Rachel and I threw ourselves into the work, organizing fundraising events, workshops, and outreach programs. Kevin and Jenny were involved too, helping with activities and sharing their experiences with other children. It was a labor of love, and seeing the positive impact on others was incredibly rewarding. One day, while we were preparing for a major fundraising gala, Kevin approached me with a serious expression. "Dad, I've been thinking a lot about the future. I want to study psychology in college so I can help people like we've been doing with the foundation." I felt a surge of pride. "That's a wonderful goal, Kevin. You have a real gift for understanding and helping others. I'm sure you'll make a great psychologist." Jenny chimed in, her face lit up with excitement. "I want to continue with my art, but I also want to use it to help people. Maybe art therapy like we do with the kids in our group." I hugged them both, feeling overwhelmed with love and admiration. "You two are incredible. Your mother and I are so proud of you." Rachel joined us, her eyes shining with pride. "We've come so far together. I'm excited to see where your dreams take you." The gala was a huge success, raising funds and awareness for our foundation. As I stood at the podium addressing the crowd, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began. "The journey that brought us here has been filled with challenges, but it has also shown us the power of resilience, love, and community. Together we can create a future filled with hope and new beginnings." The applause was thunderous, and as I looked out at the sea of supportive faces, I knew we were making a difference. In the months that followed, our family continued to thrive. Kevin excelled in his studies, preparing for college applications, while Jenny's art gained recognition and praise. Rachel and I deepened our commitment to each other and our work, finding joy in the shared purpose of our foundation. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Rachel turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mike, there's something I've been wanting to discuss with you." I took her hand, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What is it?" She smiled, her eyes filled with love. "I've been thinking about expanding our family. What do you think about the idea of fostering or adopting a child?" The idea took me by surprise, but as I considered it, I felt a warmth spread through me. "I think it's a beautiful idea. We have so much love to give, and we could provide a home for a child who needs it." Rachel's smile widened. "I'm so glad you feel that way. I've already looked into some agencies and they seem very supportive. We could start the process whenever you're ready." I kissed her, feeling a surge of excitement and love. "Let's do it. Our family has room to grow, and this feels like the perfect next step." We shared the news with Kevin and Jenny, who were both enthusiastic about the idea. "I think it's awesome," Kevin said. "We have a lot to offer, and it would be great to help another kid." Jenny nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "Yeah, and we can show them what a real family is like." We began the process of becoming foster parents, attending training sessions, and preparing our home for a new addition. It was a journey filled with anticipation and hope, knowing that we were opening our hearts and homes to a child in need. The day finally came when we welcomed our first foster child, a young boy named Alex. He was shy and nervous at first, but we quickly made him feel at home. Kevin and Jenny took him under their wings, showing him around and including him in all our activities. Watching Alex's transformation over the weeks and months was a testament to the power of love and stability. He blossomed in our care, his laughter and joy filling our home. One evening, as we sat together for dinner, Alex looked up at me with a shy smile. "Can I call you Dad?" Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. "Of course, Alex. We're family now." Rachel's eyes sparkled with happiness as she reached out to hug Alex. "And you can call me Mom." Kevin and Jenny cheered, making Alex laugh. It was a moment of pure joy, a reminder of the incredible journey we had taken to get to this point. As we continued to build our lives together, I knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be. The past had shaped us, but it no longer defined us. We had turned our pain into strength, our challenges into opportunities, and our love into a foundation for the future. Our family had grown in ways I never imagined, and I was grateful for every moment. Together, we were ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that our love and resilience would guide us through. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had led us to this place of peace and happiness. And with each new day, I was reminded that the future was bright, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of new beginnings. As our family expanded, so did our dreams. Alex's presence brought a new kind of joy and energy into our lives, and his laughter filled the house with a warmth that made every day brighter. We were no longer just healing from the past. We were building a future that was vibrant and full of love. One evening, while we were having dinner, Kevin shared some exciting news. "Dad, I've been accepted into my top choice university for psychology." The room erupted in cheers and applause. "That's amazing, Kevin," I said, beaming with pride. "You've worked so hard for this. We're all incredibly proud of you." Jenny added, "And I got a letter from the National Art Competition. My piece was selected for the finals." The joy in the room was palpable. "Jenny, that's fantastic. Your talent is being recognized on a national level," Rachel said, hugging her. Alex, not wanting to be left out, chimed in, "And I got an A on my math test." We all cheered for Alex, celebrating his achievements as well. It was moments like these that reminded me of how far we had come and how much we had to look forward to. As the weeks turned into months, we continued to focus on our foundation. The Second Chances Foundation had grown significantly, thanks to the support of the community and the tireless efforts of our family. We decided to host a large community event to raise further awareness and funds, inviting speakers, organizing workshops, and creating activities for families. On the day of the event, the turnout was beyond our expectations. Families from all over the region came to participate, share their stories, and find support. It was a beautiful sight, seeing so many people come together to help each other heal and grow. During the event, Rachel and I took a moment to reflect on everything we had achieved. "I'm so proud of what we've built," Rachel said, her eyes filled with emotion. "We've created something that truly makes a difference." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "We have, and it's all because of the love and support we've given each other." As the event continued, I was approached by a woman who looked familiar. "Mike, it's been a long time," she said, smiling warmly. I recognized her immediately. "Sarah, it's great to see you. How have you been?" Sarah was an old friend from high school, someone I hadn't seen in years. She had heard about our foundation and wanted to support our cause. We caught up, sharing stories about our lives and families. "It's amazing what you've done here," she said, looking around the bustling event. "You've turned something painful into something incredibly beautiful." "Thank you, Sarah. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it," I replied, feeling grateful for her kind words. As the day came to a close, Rachel and I stood on the stage, thanking everyone for their support. "Today has been a testament to the power of community and resilience," Rachel said. "We've come together to support each other, to heal, and to grow. And we couldn't have done it without every one of you." The crowd applauded, and I felt a sense of unity that was deeply moving. Our journey has taught us that no matter how difficult the past may be, there is always hope for the future. Together, we can create a legacy of love, strength, and second chances. As the event wrapped up, we gathered as a family, taking a moment to appreciate everything we had accomplished. Kevin and Jenny were beaming with pride, and Alex looked up at us with a big smile. "Dad, can we do this every year?" Alex asked, his eyes filled with excitement. I ruffled his hair, smiling. "Alex, this is just the beginning. We're going to keep helping as many people as we can." Rachel hugged me, her eyes shining with love. "I'm so grateful for this life we've built together. We've turned our pain into something beautiful, and I couldn't have asked for a better partner." "I feel the same way," I said, holding her close. "We've created a legacy that will continue to grow and inspire others. And it's all because of the love and support we've given each other." In the years that followed, the Second Chances Foundation continued to thrive. We expanded our programs, reaching more families and making a significant impact in the community. Kevin went on to become a successful psychologist, helping countless people heal from their traumas. Jenny pursued her passion for art, becoming a renowned artist and using her talent to inspire others. Alex excelled in school, growing into a kind and compassionate young man. Rachel and I continued to support each other, our love growing stronger with each passing day. We watched our children flourish, knowing that we had given them the tools they needed to build their bright futures. As we looked back on our journey, we were filled with gratitude for the challenges we had faced and the love that had guided us through. Our legacy was one of resilience, hope, and second chances. And we knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together, stronger and more united than ever. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had led us to a place of peace and happiness. We had built a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And as we looked toward the future, we knew that our family story was far from over. It was just beginning.